Hi, I'm Bobby Cobb. Welcome to this edition to the Presence Posse. And we're going to be talking today about presence and curiosity. And can we use that as a tool to become more present, to remain more present, and really unleash the power of presence in our life? Danielle, do us a favor and just introduce ourselves and introduce yourself and a little bit about the work that you do and how you are a teacher of presence and a practitioner of presence.
Okay, so my name is Danielle McMahon, and I live on a horse farm in mid Michigan in the US. And I teach personal peace, and I do that several ways. One of them involves the horses, which is why I said that I live on a horse farm. So I learned a process of working with the horses called horse whispering, and the practitioner of that did one day part of his horsemanship clinic that was called Questing for Peace and Productivity by way of the Peaceful Whisperer. So I've
Mm,
adapted some of his work and I've added some of my own experience and things into that area where we can use horses as a mirror for our energetic state and work with that and being present to what actually is as opposed to what we would like to think it is. Oftentimes these really clear mirrors are not particularly comfortable, right? So that's one way I do it. Also, I have a course that I'm certified to teach called Mastering the Brain Game. That's a 10-week course that I will probably offer this fall. I might move it back to summer. Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm launching that again. And that's a course basically in emotional mastery, and it helps walk us through the conditioning that we've received and how we can unlearn it and we can make new choices. So we can choose to be present and not be reacting out of our conditioning.
yeah, that you brought up two things that I just think are so beautiful. One is the way that animals are mirrors of the energy that we are sending out.
Hmm.
Um, One of the things that I've noticed is I've got an RV recently and I've been on a couple of trips, and just the process of getting ready and packing up the RV and getting ready to go has been extremely disruptive to my dogs and very seems to create a certain anxiety inside of them, even though one of the big reasons that we got the RV was the ability to travel and bring the dogs with us,
Right.
not have
It
to
is
board them.
unnerving though. I've noticed that as well. It's very unnerving to our dog when we start packing up. Even if one or the other of us starts packing up. If one of us isn't home, it's not right. Everybody's not there, right? The unit's not complete. But if both of us are busy packing up, she wants to be with us every step of the way to make sure we don't forget her, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it is. I mean, it definitely has piqued my curiosity to wonder. I mean, it's a different routine, so I know that it's unusual, but I'm wondering what it is that they might be picking up from me, or uh, that I'm emitting in some way that they're tuning into that is causing or is it just the fact that it's different? Because most days I'm kind of lounging around the house and I do my work, but I'm here, and so it's my way that I show up for them is kind of a known quantity.
It is a something that raises a curiosity for sure because my husband was gone just for the day, 2 days in a row this weekend, and the first day, I don't think the dog was certain he was coming back and she wasn't eating her dinner. And I said, "Oh, he's coming back. It's okay. Eat your dinner." And she did, right? Like she felt that reassurance somehow and ate her dinner and was fine. But how much of that do they really sense? Like I sensed that she needed to be reassured. I reassured her. Did she actually sense that? And I think she did. I think that they pick up on that, and maybe we are thinking they're unnerved when they're just excited with us, right? We
Yeah. We're really good at making up stories as human beings. We're wonderful
absolutely.
at creating and anthropomorphizing and perhaps giving the dogs and horses and other animals in our life a lot more credit. Another thing that you said there that really struck me, and I would love for you just to expand on, is this idea that inviting presence into our life and being present in the moment and just kind of noticing what happens is a choice. And I really think that that is our prime choice. And if we are mindful of that particular choice, so much other stuff just seems to fall into place. And so I would love for you to expand on that, and I'm happy to add my own thoughts to it. But you were the one that brought it up, so I don't want to color
Yeah, I
your.
think it becomes a choice as you develop the ability to observe yourself. When you are participating in your life out of just reaction, out of just conditioning, out of just a mental level and not connecting to your emotions or your energy, then you don't have a choice. You're just doing what you've always done, right? And we certainly all have heard the expression of doing what we've always done brings the same results we've always gotten. So
No,
if we expect to have different results, we need to find a way to see that in action. And once we begin to see it, then we can make a different choice. Part of the one of the really fun and probably impactful parts of the Mastering the Brain game for me when I first took it was the drama triangle and learning about how um, the entertainment industry draws us into that. And that's how
totally.
they sell tickets and that's how they sell food. Because if you're in the fight flight, you're gonna reach for some kind of comfort, and food is handy there in the movie theater. So they've learned all these things about how to make that drama triangle work for us. And because that's so prevalent in our television, in our movies, in our entertainment, we think that's how it's supposed to be, and we've just transferred it right over into our real life, where somebody's always a victim, somebody's always a rescuer, somebody's always a bully, and that's how that triangle works. And it resolves, except it never resolves because it just goes into the next loop of it. So until we understand that we have been um, unknowingly,
Seduced.
unconsciously duped into that, that we think that's how it's supposed to work, and it's not supposed to work that way at all. Like, we get to make a choice that will actually exclude us from the drama triangle. But then once you have made that choice to be in peace, to understand that drama is not a normal way of life, you still have to deal with everybody else who doesn't know that that's not a normal way of
Right.
life, right? So there's so many steps along the way and so many choices to make that it's not an overnight thing, right? You just wake up one day and say, "I'm going to stay present." I think it's a little more
Yeah.
of a process.
It is a little bit more of a process. It's almost like a recovery journey that, if you really want to invite presence into your life, it's not that difficult from, although it's the flip side of it, whereas we're constantly seeing, are we present? Are we inviting? And in the sobriety community, it's all about today I'm clean, today I'm sober, and I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm only going to worry about right now. It seemed almost like the mirror image reverse of a sobriety journey.
Yeah, the thing that sticks with me, and it's not a great saying, but it is a saying in the recovery community that I learned is if you have one foot in tomorrow and one foot in yesterday, you piss all over today. But
I like that actually. That
that
resonates nicely with me.
yeah, I mean it's pretty vivid, right? Like it stays with you. You like I don't want to do that. Okay. But we also say we don't want to close the door on the past. We just don't want to live there, right? Because
Right.
we don't want to close the door on it so that we end up repeating the same mistakes. And that's why say, like, becoming the observer of how you're functioning. And curiosity is a great thing for that. It's a great tool for that because often when we become the observer of our lives, we want to be really judgmental about ourselves. And nobody talks to our us the way we talk to ourselves, right? Like
Absolutely.
our inner critic is pretty strong and pretty
Brutal.
common, pretty universal theme that our inner voice is not something we want put on a projector for other people to read. So that curiosity helps to overcome that judgmental tendency. Like, where did I learn that? Why do I behave that way?
Yeah.
There's lots of questions that open up if you can if you can lean into that as opposed to leaning into the judgment, it makes it so much more profitable, I think.
Yeah, and that to me is where curiosity becomes a super powerful tool, because so much of what we do is a conditioned response. And it seems like that it is just the natural way that, of course, everybody does this, and we just never question it. So as a tool, it's an opportunity to begin asking questions of, why do I believe this? Why am I doing this? Is this really important? Is this something that inspires me? And all of those are opportunities to go within. And when you're asking yourself, and if you're truly answering the question, how are you doing right now? We Before we went live, we had a little interaction there where you were sort of saying, "Yeah, I'm okay," and I questioned, "Oh, are you really?" And we kind of went a little bit deeper with that in a private conversation. But we can do that all the time anyway, where we can see ourselves just habitually reacting out of fear, and to the degree that we're able to go, okay, where did that come from? Why am I reacting that? And people call each other on that, and oftentimes you'll see friends, like when somebody's like suddenly angry out of character, you'll say, where did that come from?
Right.
And that tends to be a question that we only ask when something is way, way off the mark. And it can be and is so useful to do that on a more frequent basis, to check in with ourselves. We ask each other all the time, how are you doing? And it usually is a genuine inquiry. We almost never ask that about ourselves. And in fact, the conditioning is not to ask. Facts don't care about your feelings. Suck it up. Fake it until you make it. No pain, no gain. It's not how often you get knocked down, it's how often that you get up again. there's so much in our language that is inviting us to ignore what's going on right now. And curiosity is kind of an invitation to explore instead of ignore what's going on right now. And it, it's a great way to get to know ourselves a little bit better, and do a little bit of self inquiry, as our friend Dr. Blum likes to remind us.
Yeah, so a couple of things that come up. Like if there is a genuine inquiry, how are you? We're still conditioned to just give the curt answer, right? Partly because we don't know. In
Yeah.
our case, when you asked me, I was like, "Fine." And you knew that it was not a genuine answer, and that was partly because we didn't have time, right? Like, I don't have time to go into this right
Yeah.
now. If we get started, open this can of worms, we're gonna be late on our live here, so let's just I'll hit the high spots and we'll go. But that all of those things factor in. Is somebody genuinely asking you? Because if they're not and they're doing it out of social convention and you honestly answer them, they'll be like TMI, right? Like I didn't
Yeah.
want all that information. So you have to sort of gauge where you are in that. Is this somebody that you want to share with? Do you know how you're doing? There's so many levels to it to be able to give an accurate answer. And that practice of asking yourself will make that so much easier, right? When somebody asks you how you're doing and you've been asking yourself how you're doing, then you can answer from a more authentic and um, less pondering about it, right? Like it can be right there. You know that I'm struggling with some things, or I'm really enjoying some things, or whatever the case is when you've checked in with yourself most recently. And your recommendation often is to do it many, many times a day because we're so conditioned against it. If we don't, we'll go for days and not
Yeah.
ask ourselves, right?
Well, I see that a lot in like particularly with pain. I'm a hypnotherapist, so I will occasionally work with chronic pain that is lasting long beyond any diagnosable source of that pain. Somebody's got low back pain that has just been with them for years, and they've been to the doctors, and there's nothing wrong with their spine, there's no pinched nerve, there's nothing that a medical professional can point to and treat, and yet the pain persists. And so sometimes they'll show up at my office and say, can hypnosis help with that? And the exploration of that is very often a pattern interrupt that I'll do, where I'll say, scale of 1 to 10 right now, where is your pain? And in that context, they're showing up to get it treated. So they've been thinking about it, they've been exploring it, they've been bringing it up uh, to the surface, and they very often will say, on a scale of 10, it's a 12 right now. And the pattern interrupt, which is just to get them to not answer reflexively, to give it a little thought and to see how you're doing. And I'll just say, okay, that's the reflexive response. That's where you kind of feel like you are. But do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and just check in with your body right now and see how it's doing in this moment, right now. How's that pain? And the normal response, the most frequent response, is coming back with a 5, 6, or 7.
Mhm.
And then so we'll begin to explore that. And I'll say, okay, so you said it was a 12. Why did you label it as a 12? And invariably, it always has something to do with the past or the future. I woke up this morning and I was beside myself. But actually, as I've moved around a little bit, that's gotten resolved a little bit. or I've got an appointment coming up later today with my physical therapist, and I've always got a couple of days that are just really tough after the physical therapist. Here's our friend Malcolm. I'm going to add him to the mix there, but that gets them into a, a, a more present exploration to see how it is that they're doing now. So Malcolm, welcome to the broadcast. Can you hear us okay? Kind of look like he might be frozen, actually. I've brought a frozen Malcolm on to the stream.
Okay.
All right, we'll take him back out and see if he just seems like he's kind of frozen there. And they are kind of doing that version that you talked about, with 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the present, or 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, and coloring the present moment, that it's really not true. And curiosity, to me, seems like one of the most powerful tools that we can use to get out of that flow of conditioned reality that we live so much of our lives in, and then stop to really smell the roses, to smell the coffee, and say, what's really going on here? And where are you right now? And then just that little shift oftentimes begins to make a difference for them. Just in noticing the fact, oh, I always feel like I'm at a 12, but here is obvious proof that that's not the case, that I'm always there, because I'm not there right now.
Yeah, so you've asked them to get curious, and you've asked them to interrupt that pattern. So I think that's key, is that curiosity can be a pattern interrupt, right? Like, why do you, yeah, you go on with exploration. Why do you feel that way? And I mean, my automatic reaction to that is, if I'm living in chronic pain, it's because I'm aggravated with the chronic pain, right? Like, my aggravation is always a 12 with this, because it
Yeah.
just never goes away entirely. So I can see that becoming a pattern, right? I expect it to be that way. It's been this way, so it's going to continue to be this way. Well, maybe it's not. Like, if you don't allow that possibility, then it's not a possibility for you. But get curious about it. What if you didn't have that pain? What would it feel like then? Right? So any kind of pattern interrupt in that particular kind of scenario, but in many of the ways that we get ourselves feeling stuck. And that's not a presence, right? To be in the feeling of being stuck, because the present moment isn't stuck. It's always the present moment, the
Yeah.
present moment, and the next present moment.
And it's always, the present moment is always the field of multiple possibilities, but the conditioned response is eliminating one. I heard a couple of comedians talking in an interview type show, and they were just talking about the process of comedy. It was kind of interesting. It wasn't funny, but it was interesting. And one of them said, you think about what could happen and what does happen. It's kind of like the dry cleaning. And this was a weird analogy that stuck. When you're thinking about taking your dry cleaning in, there's multiple choices that you could make. There's lots of dry cleaners that are competing with the business, and they all kind of have specials. So you've got an enormous amount of possibilities. But when you're going to pick up your dry cleaning, you only have one. There's only one place that you can go, which is, of course, that place that you left it off. And that's kind of like what conditioning is to me, that and using that pain as an example, it can be as we can get to that point where we just adopt that, we associate that at the level of identity. And it's subtle, and it's not like a conscious decision that we make. It's more something that we just fall into out of habit, that I am a person who suffers from chronic pain. That's part of who I am. And you can see that with people who are experiencing that. They'll get into contests. It's like a one-upsmanship about, oh, my pain is so much worse than yours was, and or is, you
Right.
know.
So that was an interesting way of putting it. And I don't know if you said this or I just heard it that way, but that's a role that they play, right? They've identified this role and they play that role. But we can identify with all kinds of roles in our lives that have very little to do with pain, right? But I am a mother. That's who I am. Probably not, right? That's a role I play.
You know,
It's not my identity, it's a role I play. So, I think one of the first people that helped me to break that automatic up, like, when people ask you, "So, what do you do? Who are you?" Whatever, that's the answer you give them is the roles that you play, the job that you have, the whatever the roles that you play are, and was, actually Joyce Meyer, and I was listening to her one day, and she said, "There's a big difference between your who and your do," and I'm glommed onto that, so I was able to hold on to, who I am is not the same thing as what I do.
wow, I've never
Right.
heard that, and I like it a lot. That's
Yeah, yeah, that was I really found that useful in my life, that my who and my do are different, and that I could start to make that um delineation for me, like it always had been, like I am what I do. No, no, those are roles that I play. That's my do. It's not who I am. So we are conditioned to that, though, the physical level, the mental level, those are the important things, the emotional. Obviously, we're suffering from that as a culture at this point. We're like in a crisis with it, is that we need to be able to be balanced in how we view ourselves as humans, right? Like we can't just do the fake it until you make it, or suck it up buttercup or whatever, because it's not working clearly, and we have a job in front of us, right? So that we can uncondition, open the
yeah,
conditioning, teach differently, parent differently, yeah, do business differently, all the things that have been encouraging us to be this doer, be a human doing,
yeah.
right?
Well, and if you just think about that, the tell me a little bit about you, the fact that we are conditioned to answer in what it is that we do versus who we really are.
Mhm.
If we got into a deep metaphysical type conversation with anybody, their response would be, whoa, 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 I didn't want to know that much about it.
Right?
Just
See?
tell me a little bit about you so I can begin to categorize you in my mind and begin the sorting process, and to be able to say, well, I am the awareness inside of which people would be like, turn it off. Not interested in that particular conversation yet. That is the that is the exploration that allows us to look at some of the things. Another version is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing that you've always done and expecting results other than what it is that you've already got. Or, the same thinking that got you into the problem is not going to get you out of the problem. Well, to me, it seems like curiosity is the key ingredient in those axioms that turn them from a pithy little cool bumper sticker into deep wisdom that is very useful in every facet of our life, and holds the power to, like, open up like a rose blooming, open up a whole new possibility of what the human experience could be that is just passing us by because we're just scrolling through the screen of life looking for the next funny TikTok video that may make us laugh or may make us think. When in reality, if we hone our ability to look within, if we embrace curiosity in a genuine way, every moment is like that. Wondering what the dogs are thinking as I'm packing, and what kind of message am I sending, and why are they thinking that, is a wonderful cause for a pause and can be a natural pattern interrupt. Not that we need to write a thesis about what the dog thinks, but it just is an opportunity, uh, to explore. And I've used that. I've mentioned on probably almost every podcast that we've done that I view emotions not as something that's telling us about our circumstances, which is the way that it looks from our conditioning. It looks like we're unhappy because, to use the dog example, the dogs are nervous because I'm packing, or I may be angry because I've got a crappy boss, or not enough money in the bank account, or I'm driving a car that breaks down all the time, or whatever the reason may be. And the moment that we begin to realize that it's not exclusively about our circumstances, for sure, or even the more extreme version, which is what I've adopted, that it's never about our circumstances, that invites a certain amount of presence and curiosity into our life, and can kind of change things, and gives you the cause for pause to stop and see that any moment can be a beautiful, wonderful moment. And even some of the ones that look kind of ugly at the time can be a wonderful moment. And I need to, sometimes when I get off on these rambles, I just need to pause and say, does that even make sense? Because I get into this stream of consciousness, and I don't know if my mouth is properly conveying the wonderful things that are unfolding on the
Yeah,
inside.
I think you're doing pretty well with your mouth connection there for the moment. I have a curiosity about Malcolm, though. Is he still here? Is he trying to get back?
No, I put him back online, and I was watching him there for a little while, and then he bounced out, and I don't know if he's planning
Oh,
on
man.
coming back, but he's not backstage currently.
Okay. So, yeah, the way that we interact with each other, so that's kind of where I ended, was we need a different way to train little humans, right?
Yeah,
So that we don't have so much unlearning and unconditioning to do. And then you entered that, like, how do we encourage their curiosity? Right? Like that's the part that gets shut down.
yeah,
That when we're very young, we take it all in like that. Like,
yeah,
we're very much in the present moment, and then we're in awe of the natural world and the mechanical world, and, all of the things that we're observing for the first time and being a part of. So it's people and animals and nature, and, like, my grandson is not quite 2, and he's still not sure about walking in grass barefoot. Now, he will walk on the barn aisle, which is concrete, but he gets to the end of the barn aisle and he's like, I'm not so sure about that.
and he's
So
still kind of checking it out a little bit.
yeah, like, there's bugs in there. I can see them moving. I don't know if I want to step on the bugs. I don't know if I want the bugs crawling on me. Like, those are things that we have become accustomed to. We've become Um, I mean, when we go camping, we we get that experience again sometimes, like, right? This is not like being in town. And I live on a farm, so even for me, going camping, it's different flora, it's different. All of the natural
Surroundings
world is
different. Yeah.
different from place to place. That's why you're going, right? Because you want to
Yeah.
see and experience that, and that kind of keeps that curiosity and wonder. But largely that gets shut down in people, right? They end up maturing into these bored and burdened beings.
Yeah,
And
it seems to me, and I'll be interested in your feedback on this, being a current, not only a current grandma, but a grandma who is looking at this whole process through the eyes of a presence of mind and a peace practitioner and somebody who is aware of the conditioning that's going on too. But little kids, in particularly in that year to 2 year stage, they seem like just the ultimate bundle of curiosity, where the piece of paper makes a noise and it has a taste and it has a feel when you rub it on your skin, and we like to test the tensile strength of it, and it can be frustrating and it can be funny and it can be all of that in one
yeah.
moment, and it's just unfolding. And then as kids begin to walk and talk, it's kind of like something kicks in to the parent, that now I'm raising a child, I'm rearing a person who's going to have to make their way in society, and society has rules, and it's my job to teach them the rules. And I can remember it with my own kids of, that endless, why is that? Why, daddy? Why? And, ultimately I fell victim of conditioning, where I got to the point where it was just because. That's just the way that it is. And it's kind of like their desire for more information is surpassing my either ability or desire to continue to explain it. And you know,
Yeah,
we,
so 2-year-old is kind of the no phase, and 3-year-old is kind of the why phase.
okay,
Um,
I'm far enough removed that I don't remember that.
and my son certainly started the no at 18 months and the why at 2.5 years, so he was kind of precocious. But I remember at different points getting to the point where, if I said I didn't know, that was not an acceptable answer to him. Like, you have to know, right? So when I got to that point and I would say, I don't know. Well, what do you think? Take a guess, blah, blah, blah. Right. I'd be like, okay, what do you think? And if you turn that why on them, then they get to explore more. Right. But most of us are just trying to answer the child and get them to stop.
Mm. Instead
So
of nurturing that curiosity and getting them to explore.
yeah. So that with my child was one of the things that I remember for sure, was hitting on that and going, "Oh, this is so much better. Now you can tell me what you think might be going on and what you would guess and what you would, come up with for these explanations as to why the sky is blue or whatever the question of the day, of the moment is." So, because sometimes too, when I would answer him, well, okay, I'll say this is, then he would argue with me.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
like, why did you want me to answer you if you're just going to argue with me? You have an idea, right? So that's probably where the question came from, was when he argued with my guess. Like, you're going to press me to guess, and I guess, and now you're going to tell me that you have a different opinion. Just go ahead and keep giving me your opinion and your ideas, and don't put me on the spot. But that is what we get to, I mean, we have a certain, yeah, because if that's no, that's why, then yeah, by the time they're 4, you're thinking, I got to get them to comply with a certain amount of things to get them into preschool. Like they got to be potty trained, they got to be somewhat social, they got to know some things, right? So that there is a definite, upon entering our education system, that we have more pressure to encourage our child to conform.
And now here is Malcolm Free. So Malcolm, we're
It is
talking.
moving. Yay.
Coach Malcolm is moving, unfrozen. We're talking about curiosity. So I'm curious as to your initial thoughts on curiosity, maybe not having heard the conversation that we've been having, and what are some initial thoughts on curiosity and how we can use that to become practitioners of presence more frequently in our lives. Welcome, Malcolm.
And there he is.
Well, hey. Uh, I just text you a message like you don't have to bring me in, but I was not gonna let the tech guys deny me this opportunity. When we like it's crazy, man. But we talk about curiosity. Curiosity is a good thing, man. And is I heard y'all talking about the kids and their curiosity and all those things, right? And they got all of these neurons in their little bitty heads that are trying to gather information to realize, saying, what is this? What is that? How does that feel? They're trying to create a reality, right? Their brain is trying to create. Is it everybody blinking? But anyway, so when it comes to them, they're going to have those questions. They're going to be curious. We as adults, we get into this level and we don't want to be curious anymore because we start thinking we know everything, right? Unless we do something new. And now we go through a process thing out because as we get older, our brain gets more focused on our path, right? When we're young, like little kids or whatever, we have no direction. We have no, right? All we have is the question marks of what is, why is, who is. So as we get older, we start, our am I breaking up? Am I clear?
A little bit.
A little bit, but we can follow you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So as you get older, to go where we're trying to go in life. So what I'm saying, what we're trying to achieve in life. That's why it's good to have, have a, where you want to go because your brain is going to focus with you. The brain is going to focus on those things. So you have to understand that processes, but we as adults, we still have to be curious, right? Because you still, even though you're 50 years old or 60 years old or whatever, you still got 300, at least at the minimum, you got over 300 billion neurons. I mean, 300,000 neurons in your brain that's still waiting to be used, right? So, the whole thing about true, because you still have neurons in your brain that are still open to new information. That's new, And as I always say, the brain loves novelty. It loves new. It's searching for new. Matter of fact, if you we talked about it last week, where we talked about old routines, right? Staying in those routines. That's what we talked about, staying in those routines. Well, of course, your brain and body don't want to stay in that routine. Roses or whatever the case is, right? It wants to smell, it wants that new experience in life. So in order to have that new experience, you have to be curious, right? To see what is outside the box, right? To see what I can do, from where I am. So, just looking at it from that point of view, right, is curiosity is a good thing. right? It is truly a good thing because it triggers your imagination. In certain situations, right, it can get your heart rate up, right, to where where you're getting more air into the system, et cetera, et cetera. So curiosity shouldn't be a thing that people feel is bad, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's just you just got to be cautious about what you're curious about, right? Because you might be curious about something that you probably don't need to. You know what I'm saying? You get this uneasy feeling about deep inside, but you're curious about it. So, what I'm saying, instead of go reading a book, you try to physically go figure it out. And that's when you realize physically that ain't what you want. So, what I'm saying? So it's just about everybody wants to know right? How good can I be? Right? How much money can I make? Right? Everybody should be curious to know those things, right? How deep into spirituality can I get? Right? Can I get to the next, to where I feel like I'm in that next evolution of life? Can I get there? Right? Is that even possible? Right? So that's curiosity, and you gotta work into that curiosity, and what I'm saying, and go for it, man. Like it's just go for it. And I hate that people think that when they get a certain age, is I'm over 40. I ain't got time for that. Yeah, you do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Right? You just
that's
probably scared
conditioning
because it's
talking.
outside of that norm.
Yeah, the
Right.
idea that once
Right.
you hit
So
40,
what I'm
you're no
saying,
longer.
and just
Sorry, I'm kind of talking over you.
right. So what I'm saying, and that's my only point when it comes to curiosity is what I'm saying, just you got to go with it.
Yeah, I have that with one of my coaching practices is coaching financial advisors in their business, and whenever I get a new client in that particular school, I'll ask, what are your goals? And the promise of that coaching program is helping financial advisors build the practice of their dreams, and whatever that means to them. And the reflexive response is, when I ask them what do they want, there's a level, the $1 million roundtable. Everybody, if they're not in it already, they want to be in the $1 million roundtable. And I'll start to ask, why do you feel that way, or why do you want that? And we'll begin an exploration of that. And often, like maybe a third of the time, people will say something like, well, I don't know, that just seems like a good level to be. That seems like you've made it. It seems like you've arrived. And, according to the conditioning, that is absolutely true. And I'll say, okay, well, that is a goal. Why is that goal important to you? And is that goal really important to you? And then I will sometimes talk about two clients that I've got. One who is a stay-at-home dad and is a working financial advisor, but only works when his kids are in school. And another one used to be an inshore fishing guide. He took people out on fishing trips, and he did that for a living for a long time, but then became a financial advisor and used that skill set to build a financial advisory practice. And he is not in the $1 million roundtable, has no desire to be in the $1 million roundtable, but he's now doing basically the same thing that he used to do as a fishing guide, which was something that he loved doing, but was struggling to make money at. To now he's doing those same activities and getting paid about 10 times what he used to get paid. And that again is a pattern interrupt for these guys, that they begin to see, okay, I've been conditioned to think that this $1 million level is when all of a sudden it's nothing but blue skies and sunshine. And once they're disavowed of that conditioned belief, now the field opens up to say, let's explore this. Let's get curious about what kind of a business would you have to build so that you loved doing it every day. So burnout, that's a very high problem with a lot of people that are in that. They just get to the point where they've had enough. And, let's get curious about what it is that would take this beyond what you've been conditioned to believe will make you happy, and to explore the way that you're currently wired. What would just be the ultimate for you, and how would that be different? And it's a very different experience in just the way that life shows up for us. It's not that just the scroll on the Twitter feed of what is being presented to us is going on right now. Seems very different. So we're kind of getting close to the end. And Malcolm, if your tech is back to where you'd like it to be, let me invite you to just have a little bit more of a expression of kind of what your thoughts are on this subject, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with how folks can get in contact with you and that sort of thing after. Anything else you'd like to add?
I heard my name and everything else is but anyway, you know what I'm saying? To end it in a sense, man, it's curiosity is what it is. Curiosity is a part of life. Being curious is a part of your inner state. And sometimes you can also look at it as, you know what I'm saying, maybe there's an intuitive reason as to why the curiosity is there. Maybe there's something, you know what I'm saying, internally leading you to that, right? Something had to get your attention for you to even focus on that level, right? To even think about it, to be curious about it. So maybe it's something internally telling you something to be curious for, what's going on with your life and how to better your life, your spirit, your health, or whatever the case is. So look at curiosity as a part of, you know what I'm saying, your spiritual compass, right? And just evaluate it before you jump into it, before you dive into it, just like anything else, right? Make sure you do research on it or about it before you go head first into it. That's all I have.
Yeah, I like that. And, those great questions that it seems like everybody thinks about in philosophy is very focused on who am I? Why am I here? What does all of this mean? And those great questions, it's almost like curiosity was installed at the factory by the manufacturer, part of the original equipment. So we would continue to pull on those threads of those great questions of life. So I like that a lot. Danielle, any final thoughts that you'd like to leave the folks with?
It's an interesting conversation that we're tapping into, like how to develop more curiosity and use that in the present moment, because the curiosity opens up all the possibilities.
Yeah.
Like, we got on that path. That's a good thing, because that's what we need to take care of our physical being. But it doesn't eliminate all these other possibilities that are still here. So, yeah, eliminating that place where we feel like it's not necessary anymore, and bringing
Yeah.
back the curiosity that opens up the possibilities for our lives. I think that's the way to use it as a tool for presence.
Mm. I like that a lot. I think that would be that you kind of laid out what could be next week's episode of uses of curiosity in the practice of presence. That in this particular show, we've been kind of talking about why it's here, why it's good, how it's helpful, and how it can be used as a pattern interrupt. And I think it would be fun to explore either next week or in another future show about specifically how we can use that as a wedge between our conditioned reality and our true authentic self, to create a little bit of space there. So let me just finish it up by giving you guys the opportunity to talk about anything that you're going to be offering here in the not too distant future. Danielle already hinted at it, that the Brain Game will have another run at some point in the not too distant future. What's the best way for folks to connect with you, Danielle, if being a part of that or any of the other stuff that you do is something that they would like to explore a little bit more deeply?
My Facebook page is the best place to reach me. My email is on there, and I get thousands of emails. So you'd have to put something in the subject line that was like, I would like to catch my attention, right? Like, I want to be part of Mastering the Brain Game. Then I'll probably open it. But otherwise, Facebook, just reach out to me. If you are a friend of mine, go ahead and message me. If you're not currently a friend of mine, send me a request and reach me there. You can certainly reach me in this group. The Presence Posse is a public group on Facebook that you can reach out to any of us there, and we will respond.
Yeah, that may be the easiest way to get to any of us. And it strikes me as you were saying that, how many people in the last couple of months have said to me, don't send me an email. I don't check my email anymore. And it's kind of like that was the hot way for a time. And it sort of seems like that that time is passing. But we will put Malcolm's email up on the screen here. Malcolm, what are anything that you've got coming up that folks might have a interest in, and what's the easiest way to get a hold of you for those people who are want to explore your services a little bit more deeply? Malcolm.
He just unmuted.
Right,
He's
well, for
on his
me,
way.
well, right now I'm revamping my whole coaching program. I'm sorry. Right, I'm revamping my whole coaching program. There's a delay, and that's why I'm late or whatever. But anyway, revamping pretty much everything that I got going on. So I don't have anything to offer right now, unless you have coaching, unless you want a coach, a neuro coach, a health coach, to help you find your way, right? To at least help you find a way to get started. Outside of that, right, I'm still trying to put this course together. Hopefully I can get it out this year and stop procrastinating with it. Outside of that, there's nothing really going on. The information that's going across the screen right now is still valid at this moment. So you can still contact me through there, through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm everywhere. Still taking speaking engagements if it's anybody out there looking for a speaker to come speak or whatever the case is. Opening up slots for that also. So they can contact me. They can go to their website. They can, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm everywhere as Coach J. Malcolm Free or something real close and simple.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I'm Bobby Cobb. The easiest way to get a hold of me is actually in a Facebook group that I run, which is called Our Mindful Life. That's where I'm most active on Facebook, and just seems to be the place to get a good introduction to the work that I do. I've got a free course in there, a 21-day course called Spring into Mindfulness, where I go through a lot of my philosophy. I share a lot of techniques, and going through that program, you can get a pretty good feel if the stuff that I'm teaching resonates with you, and if it looks like I might be a person who could help you get from where you are to where you want to go. So reach out to me there. And so for everybody that's tuning in either here live or on the replay, thank you very much for taking your time. And Danielle and Fred, thank you, or Danielle and Malcolm rather, thank you very much for the generosity of your time and your ideas. And we will see you all next time on another edition of the Presence Posse. Ciao for now. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.